you think it's possible that this stuff wasn't even from what we think it was from? Do you think it's possible it was like much older than this? Like maybe even like older than 12,000 years old?
It's hard to know. You know, there's a break in the archaeological record between around 5,000 BC and 10,000 BC where we don't really see these. And so if it was from a culture right before where these are normally attributed to, we think we would see that. If it was from a period of time much earlier, then maybe what you're saying is right. I don't know, but I tend to think.
How do they do that? How do you determine that there was a gap from when we see them? Like how do you date these?
They're found in burials. So the dynastic Egyptians would bury their loved ones with these, right? And sometimes kings and pharaohs would find these in.
All of them are found in burials.
Yes, but the funny thing is some of them were buried themselves. So there was a pharaoh named Djoser in Imhotep. They put at least 40,000 of these down below the step pyramid. I actually think it was much more, like more like 100 or more, by themselves. So not with bodies. They were packaged up in thousands of containers to protect them.
So with nothing to carbon date.
No, but some of the names sketched into them were from kings even earlier, hundreds of years before.
Sketched into the vases themselves.
Etched in or scratched in, if you will.
Wow. Okay, so that would be good evidence. That would be a good way of dating it.
Well, yeah, you have a minimum. You have a minimum age. You know it's someone before you, but that was Menes or Narmer, who allegedly was the first person that united Egypt. And so if his name is in a lot of these, maybe he was collecting them too. And it turns out a pre-dynastic culture called Naqada was found with these.
Well, just because you find them buried with pharaohs or have pharaohs' names etched in them doesn't mean they made them. They could have just found them.
Yeah, exactly. If you go to the Cairo museum, the new museum, and I think it's also in other museums as well, but if you look at those vases, sometimes they have the museum label, the serial number of those. And specifically in the New Egyptian Museum, I've seen one big vase with 3 different labels. The first one, one was from the current museum and another one from the previous one. And what if they did the same? Like they found these, they labeled them, and then you see multiple inscriptions on these vessels and containers. And it's not the real owner or manufacturer of the vases, not the original guy who made it.
Right. Yeah, I don't understand the controversy here, because it's an insult to anyone's intelligence to show them these scans that you guys did and say that they were done with pounding stones and copper tools. Like it's just not logical in any sense of the word.
We were talking to Miano recently, and he acknowledged that potentially they did have a lathe or revolving equipment. But right now, that's not what's attributed to any of these cultures. They didn't have the wheel. The wheel came from Mesopotamia after Naqada.
Yeah. So, what year did they come? Did they have? Do you know what year that they actually got the lathe? Like when was the lathe first introduced?
It was around 3000 BC, roughly speaking. We don't know exactly, but it was found in Mesopotamia first, and then apparently shared with Egypt. But these were turned. You can see evidence of turning marks on them. These would predate the wheel being in this region by several thousand years. And if these were made on something rotating, which it seems like they certainly were in a lot of cases, it was part of the process, something revolving, either a wheel or a lathe or something like that. But that's interesting because that culture that allegedly made these, Naqada, they didn't apply that process to anything else. Their pottery was not made on a wheel. It was made by hand. They would pinch it and draw it in coil. And so that seems very odd that they would have this tech that's only used for stone, that's so wonderfully efficient, and they would never use it for anything else. These people also didn't put stone in their homes. They didn't make headstones. They didn't have monuments, statues. They didn't have toilets, sinks, basins. And if you could cut and carve stone this easily, or this proficiently, you would apply it to your primary residence and other churches, whatever, important buildings.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And one of the arguments I think Flint Dibble made to me, not about the vases, but about the pyramids, was that like certain things they would be incentivized to make certain things better and more precise if they're monumental. And he used the analogy of like Washington, D.C. He's like, you see the Washington Monument? Now, are all the houses in the neighborhoods around that monument Are they as precise as the Washington Monument or as enormous and like well crafted as that? No, because they weren't. That was like a monumental ceremonial thing, right? You don't need the houses. They could be mud huts, you know, living around there. And I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know if that argument applies to the vases though.
Well, the Hoover Dam's one of the biggest things in America. It's one of the biggest, you know, constructions that men have ever made. But we use the same technology in other things. We know how to use cement in other things. Why? How come this technology was never applied to anything else ever? And you easily could. You could say, "Oh, look how they're spinning that stone around. I should do that with my clay." Right? And so that's it leads me to think these are inherited even to this culture. They were heirlooms. That this is not a very rudimentary culture. I would say that they're impressive. It was a society. They traded. They were all over the world.
Which culture are you talking about?
Nakata.
Nakata.
So they traded with the Levant, with that area all the way up into Syria, southern Africa. They did have copper. They were using it to hunt. They made beer. They had breweries. But they lived in mud huts. They had very limited uses of wood, and they weren't known for applying anything like this to any other facet of their life. So these were found in Nakata burials. That's the earliest record of these being found.
Possibly. Sometimes they don't even, or they cannot even date it. Because if you look at the museum provenance, sometimes it says that possibly Nagada, or it was found in this grave and that grave, which is dated to Nagada. But sometimes they are not sure. They just write early dynastic or Nagada or pre-dynastic. So it's not straightforward when were they made.
Right.
The thing I had on previously, that was the small one.
Yeah, I just can't get over how insane this is, man. It really is crazy.
This is how it looks like.
So that's the real one.
Yeah.
And this is in the Petrie Museum?
Yes. Yeah. And so it's like possibly
how
Nagada.
thin? I mean, it's pretty thin, the walls of this thing. Like
the interior is reconstructed because the laser scanner cannot capture the inside of this.
Right. So how thin was the real one?
We couldn't measure it because we had a precision caliper calibrated to a few microns, but it wouldn't fit. The opening is so tiny.
When Matt was here, he had some of his vases, and we turned all the lights off, and we shined a flashlight in there, and you could see the whole thing lit up because it was paper thin. Like the edge, the sides of this granite vase were literally paper thin. It was completely insane, and like
this one was very thin.
Yeah,
you can feel the thickness of this. This is a very weird shoulder
very thin.
jar. This is from the 6th dynasty, sorry. So this is not pre-dynastic on paper. But the interesting thing about this piece is the actual measurements. So if I open it up, the exterior is basically 140 microns, which is 5,000 or 6,000 of an inch.
Okay.
That's the exterior, and the interior is 1,000. Wow. So the interior is more precise than the exterior.
Like the Serapion boxes, it's the same thing, right? The interior is super precise, but the exterior is like really rough and rugged.
Yeah.